Hello.
Good morning, Mr. J Robbins.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay, good.
Well, Jay, my
All
name is
right.
Glenn. Thank you very much for joining me on the HustleWing podcast today. What are you about? What is the elevator pitch? And tell us exactly where you are right now and what people need to know. And then we kind of like progress a little bit, and then hopefully I throw in a few things that get you going because I've looked at your platform and your website and all that. So there's so much to cover in that short amount of time. It's just interesting to
Got it.
know what you have to say and understand those gaps. Yeah. Koa River Capital. So Koa River Capital, what is the USP? How did it start? And where are you currently in 2024 in terms of a business? I think that's always a really cool place to kick off.
Got it. So what Koa River Capital is, we are a firm that helps real estate investors and entrepreneurs leverage by utilizing financing to grow and create more wealth. So most of the business that we do is mortgage lending tied to real estate. Whether a
Mm-hmm.
real estate investor is buying a single family home or doing a fix and flip or a ground up construction, or a commercial investor is buying a multifamily project, an industrial building, a hotel, essentially we give money to those who don't have all the cash or strategically use financing to grow their real estate portfolio and or create more wealth. Now, why this
Uh huh.
started? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You were going to ask a question.
No. That's the next question. Why did this start in terms of the service being offered in comparison to what other financial institutions would be offering and the banks and so forth? What's that? What does that gap look like?
Right. So your question is, what are we offering that's different from other people who do the same thing, in particular
Mm.
banks? Is that fair? Okay. So
Yeah.
what I've understood, so I've been in mortgage lending in the finance sector for over 2 decades. This past November, or past August rather, excuse me, I celebrated 24 years of being in the business in one capacity or the other. Almost all of it
Wow.
has been a service provider in doing mortgages, mostly residential. And
Mm-hmm.
so what I've discovered in this last year, in the end of 2022 and 2023, when the interest rates dropped, that I personally wanted to figure out, well, what can I do to help people who are in need of financing at this particular time, even though the market is slow. And I
Mm-hmm.
understood that real estate investors, entrepreneurs, commercial real estate investors, not everyone has the perfect situation, which is a good lead in to what separates me from others and the banks. So
Yeah.
the need in this industry for someone who brings, or a company who brings, a spiritual approach to financial services. Those two
Sorry, a
words usually,
spiritual approach. A spiritual approach to financial services. I love that. That's awesome.
right. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's very rare that you hear that. So I have
Yeah.
a personal practice where I have a morning
Mm-hmm.
routine and I get myself grounded. I know the benefits of literally being barefoot outside and what the earth can do to the physical body to balance
Mm.
physically, biologically, and how this starts the day. And so as a professional financial service provider, the key word in there is service. So I am in service. And I actually chose, or I shouldn't say I chose, maybe the industry chose me. And so what I get
Sure.
to do is bring my being in service approach, which relies a lot on being compassionate, understanding, kind, being comfortable with setting boundaries, which leads by example because so many of us are workaholics. where
Yeah.
we feel we need to
Yeah.
work hard and we need to grind in order to achieve what? Making a lot of money, right? Is typically what it is. My
Mm.
philosophy is not that we need to build wealth and make a lot of money, but it's why. And
Mm-hmm.
that's very important. And then working hard or grinding, right? If you look at the term of what grinding is pushing something so hard that it starts to fade off, right? So
Phrase.
I'm not
Absolutely.
so right. So I'm not a fan of grinding, or we've
Mm.
grown up with this phrase working hard. I'm a fan of, and we hear this often, of working smart, working laser
Mm.
focused, being present so we can balance our life and enjoy things like our family. I'll be 49 years old and I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. So it's important to me that I'm able to spend time, but I also need to make a living. So I get to
Mm.
serve while I am making a living. And so, why do I want to make the money I want to make? Because it buys me time, which buys me
Mm.
freedom. And so, I bring that concept to someone who's interested in building their wealth via real estate and even entrepreneurs. So, I shared with you a little while ago that a large percentage of my business is mortgage lending for real estate, and a portion of my
Mm.
business is giving capital to entrepreneurs. So if said entrepreneur has a business that's functioning and they need 100,000 or 200,000 or $1 million to take their business to the next level, as an example,
Mm-hmm.
and they need funding to do that, I have access to be able to do that, which goes back to sharing with real estate investors and entrepreneurs how to build wealth and create more wealth. And then I bring this spiritual approach. So going back to what separates me is that most financial services professionals understand the business, but they might not have a meditation practice. They might not
Mm.
know how to, they might not know or understand that your thoughts produce emotions. And if you have an argument with your spouse prior to showing up at work, it can parlay into the conversation you have with the person you're serving. And then a lot of times you're really not present, right? So what I do and what
Mm.
separates me is I know that, listen, I'm not perfect and we all have stuff, right? But because of my meditation practice and my emphasis on spirituality, I'm able to show up and be really present and compassionate and kind and understanding, which is one of the reasons I've been in the business over 2 decades and I've been able to sustain. So that separates me from
Yeah.
other brokers. Um, so why would someone use me versus a large bank? Well,
Mm-hmm.
what I've discovered in the last year to a year and a half, and because of what's happening to the economy around the world, is that most banks are on the conservative side. They're pretty rigid, and they say, "Here's our box, and you need to fit in this box. And if you don't fit in this box, I'm sorry, we can't help you." Where I come in
Yeah.
is I say, it's okay if you don't fit in the box. Let's figure out different things to create a strategy so we can help you achieve your intention, what your goals are, right? So let's create a strategy. And being a broker, I have access to so many different resources that if someone has not the best credit in the world, or they don't have a lot of cash, or they haven't been in the business as long as other folks, I'm able to customize where to go. So, what separates me from other brokers is my approach to how I serve. What the
Mm-hmm.
reason why someone would use me versus a bank is because I'm able to think outside the box. I consider myself an artist. I'm creative. I just happen to be in the financial services business.
Well, let's be honest. Most financial service professionals, their vibration is pretty low. So it's
That's
really
that's a word that I use all the time, and I agree with that. That's right.
I absolutely in the last year I've really sort of like pivoted into that, so I understand a lot about it. It's a very important part of my life as well. So would I be correct in saying that there's a lot of sort of like ethical considerations in terms of how you conduct not only business but how your client engagements and all that, because there's different kinds of lending opportunities and all that, and it's based on what the requirements are. So it isn't just what the credit profile is and how they fit into that, but based on maybe what their actual business need is and all that. So like everything has an ethical sort of overlay, and it is that important in terms of the people you work with as well.
It is, and but that ethical, I guess, in some cases can be relative because
Mm,
I support being gray, right? You have black and you have white, right? And it's either one or the other. And I say that's not true. It's let me understand your situation. Now, well, let me back up. From an ethical standpoint, you have not telling the truth and telling the truth. Okay. There that could be
mm,
ethical or not ethical. Okay. I am a
sure.
huge component of being very forthright, very direct, being upfront and honest because I understand karma, right? And
Mm,
karma is also good. It's not like, oh, there's your karma. Well, karma can be good, right? It's just an energetic of what you put out, you're going to get back. And so
mm,
when we show up to a conversation or something that we're someone that we're working with and we are in lack, okay, then there's a level of desperation, and a lot of
mm,
us might make a decision that might be not may not be considered ethical because we're in lack. I am a proponent of understanding what abundance is. Lack is not
mm-hmm.
having enough. Abundance is having everything you need and allowing what I call the universe. A lot of people have different words for this all powerful energy. I call it the universe.
I call it the
That
universe too.
right
Absolutely.
there you go. So we're on the same page. But the universe
Yeah.
will show up and provide us what we want and need as long as energetically we're sending out that high vibration of what we're wanting. So if we're coming from a place of lack, then lack is going to show up, and that can be in the
Mm,
unethical category. If we come
mm,
from a place of abundance that I have everything I want and need, and I've been in life long enough to understand that if dollar signs are flashing in front of me and there's some things in there that might raise a red flag,
mm.
I'm very fortunate and aware of the power of saying no. Okay.
Oh, that's interesting.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and because no is a very powerful word in any business, because when we say
Mm,
no, it opens up the opportunity for something else to come in our direction. And again, that's where the abundance concept comes in. So it's very important to me that the people that I speak to are upfront and honest so I can truly serve the best. And
mm-hmm,
there's never judgment because we all have our stuff. But I'm not afraid to tell someone no if it's not going to work, or I give them a strategy in order to make it work, and at that point they either do the homework I give them or they don't, and I
mm.
support. We all have our own journey, and that's my take on that.
Jay, you know what? I'll be honest with you. I wish we had more than 20 minutes because I could go into so many tangents now about manifestation and multidimensional stuff. Like we are going to have a follow up interview. I promise you, because
Yeah, I'm
this is something
happy
that's
to.
no, really, this is something that's very, very close, to, very almost said near and dear, but it's not. It's very part of my everyday and has become a larger part of life, especially understanding it a bit better, which is very interesting. And I think that people don't have that balance because I don't like the word grind either. What's the point? You know what I mean? It just, you need to do that. So, how, in your mind, so if I ask you this question, how does that, besides just looking for people that would want the specific services, if we look at the people you're working with, describe the team that is around you. Um, who else is on the team? Where are those gaps that people could potentially come into? Think of development, think of marketing, think of sales, and so forth. So just, I mean, just a top level look at that in your mind. how does that look right now for the business?
Got it. So the team that I have, well, there's a couple of parts. So you have there's a great book that's called the E Myth.
Mm-hmm.
And the E Myth, E stands for entrepreneur. It's one of the greatest business books ever written. And I actually, you can tell a lot by where a person is by the information and content they're consuming. And so the three recent books, actually, I'm on the current book that I'm listening to, audio listen, is the Esther Hicks, the Abraham Hicks Law of Attraction. Prior
Mm-hmm.
to that, it was Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, then the
Mm-hmm.
E Myth, and then Rich Dad Poor Dad. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so all of these have a component of growing and how to grow, like how to scale, along with adding a component of what I call spirituality, like an
Mm-hmm.
energy that we come to the table with every day. So ultimately, what I've done is each part of what I want to have happen in my growth shows up, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, once I committed to working with, and as I mentioned, I've been working with residential home buyers and homeowners for over 2 decades.
Mm-hmm.
Koa River Capital, the concept had started a few years ago. I officially made it happen in September of 2022, and I've been off and running. And so the first part of it was marketing and development. Let me get the business coming in. And then that happened. So there are several folks I have that are that are going out and getting business, and then I'm handling the operations. Where I was always the marketing guy, but now the marketing is I've marketed to marketers, and now they're bringing in business. So
Mm-hmm.
then, okay, now I've got this business, so now it's operations, making sure I have all of my lender partners in place that are specific to the wants and needs of the borrower, whether it's an entrepreneur who needs business capital, a real estate investor, as I mentioned, who wants to buy a hotel, or an investor who wants to buy a single family home, fix and flip, and then turn around and sell it. And so each product is different, loan amounts are different. It requires lots of lenders. So I've been putting a lot of time and energy into, because not all lenders are still around because of what happened
Mm-hmm.
in the economy in the last year. So it's the ones that are still there, understanding the guidelines that are always changing. So the marketing is happening. The operations of having the different lenders in place are there. And what I've been putting my time and energy to and meditating to is having the best streamline process, because my product is the process of helping someone experience this service peacefully. Very important to me. And
That's that's great. I like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so as a service provider, it's, well, what do you want to experience? Of course, they have their immediate goal. Well, I need this money for this reason. Okay, what's important to you about it? And it all essentially leads back to the same thing. I want my mind to be relaxed when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
this part of my life. I can't help you in your relationship or your family or your hobbies unless you ask, and I'm happy to offer perspective. But what I can do is I can manage the finance part of your life when I'm hired to do that service. And then that way there's really no thinking. It's follow my lead. I will
Mm-hmm.
get you to where you want to go, and know that I'm going to be following up with you, so you don't have to think what's happening, because you'll know what's happening, and then your mind can be at ease. And so that process is very important, and it's almost finished being completely refined with what's been happening. So we've got, and the reason I mentioned the books before, the E-Myth, because it breaks down, and my mind is a little blank right now, so you have to bear with me, but it's the manager, the dreamer, and the technician, right?
Mm-hmm.
The dreamer is the one that's got all the ideas. The manager is the one that manages everything to make sure everything is okay, and then the technician kind of finites everything. And when we're individual, we have to be good at all three, right? And as we,
Absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
right, but we also have to know that if we want to scale, because if we want money, again, the key is to find out why. Why do we want money, right? Once you are clear on why you want money, then you can put the parts in place to be able to build out your business to scale. Because right now, one of the things I picked up is when we are self-employed, let's say, which I'm guessing most of the people that are watching this are self-employed for the most part.
Mm.
Okay. When we are
It's a
self-employed,
combination of both, actually. It's a combination of both, actually, which is important about the community. Some people
okay,
are employed and they are doing side hustles. Yeah, absolutely.
got it, understood. Okay, so then it's important to understand that if you are self-employed, you're relying on your own skills and your own efforts to bring in money, that it's just a job until you build it to a point where you can still earn money, but you don't have to be in the job. Then it becomes a true business. And a lot of people,
Absolutely.
yeah, and because a lot of us grind and we work hard to bring in money and we're self-employed, it's like, why? Oh, we want the freedom and all those things, but there's not the freedom isn't there a lot because we're all working so hard. So ultimately, that's kind of a I kind of went on the side from your question, which is what is the overview of what I'm looking
No,
at. But hopefully that answers
but
your
it is a
question.
nice it is a nice overview, because I think what you've answered as well, which is one of the questions, and I wish you had more time, was
Which, by the
about the
way, I do
culture.
have a few more. I'm willing to put a little bit more time into this. I have a little bit of free time if you're open to that.
People always ask me what my tattoo is, and it's actually Boethius, the constellation of philosophy. My belief history is a wheel. Inconsistency is my very essence is a wheel. Rise up, my spokes, if you like, but do not complain if you cast back down into the depths. Mutabilities are tragedy, but also very hope. The best of times, just like the worst, are always passing us by. And I think I'm sharing that with you because maybe it's something you would have liked, or you would have read before or heard, whatever the case is. And
It hit me. And what I would encourage you to do is put that in copy and allow maybe the listener of this video to slowly
get
read
that
that
sick.
so they can absorb it.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. And I think we can absorb, and I'm going to schedule a follow-up interview for some other questions about bringing that spirituality and that elements of that thinking into business, so forth. I'm going to end it there, though. I'm going to say thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time, Glenn. Looking forward to our next call.